You're listening to Life Lessons from a Psychic with C Psychic Readings Intuitive Podcast, the podcast where you'll get healing messages from Spirit to help you move positively forward in your life. Hi there, it's C from C Psychic Readings. Thanks for coming back and joining me for another podcast. This one, I want to talk a little bit more about finding your perfect match, love, and relationships from the point of view of what I've learned as a psychic, doling out this spiritual advice, I'll say. I've had a couple clients that have reached out in the past little bit and they've said, see, I've been listening to your podcast. Really love it. I haven't heard you talk very much about, love and relationships recently. And one in particular said, see, I've had readings with you and you give me really good advice for what I should do for my particular situation. But just, I'm curious, in general, how do you kind of view finding your perfect match as a psychic, and what kind of advice can you give to others, having done readings for clients all around the world and advising on love and relationships? So I thought that was an interesting topic we can kind of go into a bit. And I'd love to just kind of jump in. Let's see what we could start with. So for anyone that doesn't know me, or if anyone who has read for me before, I kind of name myself the crazy psychic lady, no nonsense psychic. And what I do is just, I give you what I get. So if you've had a reading with me before, what I do is I have my tarot deck in front of me, but I don't know what any of the cards or symbols formally mean. Instead, they start giving me imagery, feelings, and impressions that I'm then supposed to deliver to my client in terms of spiritual messages. Blah, excuse me. So that's kind of the gist of it for what I do. I've been very, very blessed to be a part of this work. I get to read for clients all over the world. And one of the big things that obviously a lot of my clients want to know about is love and relationships, love and romantic relationships. And can I tell you something so fascinating that always still surprises me? We live in different parts of the world going through so many different experiences. And I think especially now we kind of look at what is dividing us or what separates us as a species even, or just as humans, what kind of separates us from each other. But one thing I've noticed, the feeling of wanting love and the feeling of wanting to be in the right relationship and finding your perfect match, your soulmate, whatever you want to call it, for that great romantic connection, it's universal. It's fascinating because I can read for a client in the US, India, China, Australia, Norway. Oh my gosh. And just everybody has the same desire to be in a healthy, loving relationship, and a lot of times the same issues, right? So that's sort of what we kind of come up against. So when I'm reading for a client, obviously I'm reading for their specific situation. So I kind of joke around and say that I'm a psychic, therapist, you might want to say, right? So my job is to look and kind of get into the soul of that client and give them spiritual messages and information to help them move positively on their path so they can move forward and find their perfect match, right? But clients don't always listen. Love them very, very much. But I get a ton of emails sometimes where, and after I do readings, I don't remember readings when I do them with people because I do so many readings. But I'll have a client message me that says, see, you did a reading for me 3 weeks ago or 3 months ago or 6 months ago or a year or two ago. And you told me this. I want to say I didn't want to listen. I didn't believe you. I thought you were the crazy psychic lady, but I finally realized what I have to do, or I finally heard the messages Spirit was having to tell me. And I followed it, and now I'm in a situation to either meet my perfect match, I found my perfect match, all that kind of good stuff. I call the term perfect match because a lot of people throw around soulmate very flippantly, I would say. People always say, oh, this is my soulmate, this is my soulmate. And I think soulmate doesn't always have to apply to romantic connections. And I always like to say that, everyone comes into your life for a reason and a season. So there are long love stories and short love stories, and they are all love stories. So I'm kind of hesitant to use that term soulmate because it can apply to a romantic relationship, but I think it also can apply to certain other connections in your life. But your perfect match, or the person that is a perfect match for you at the time period you're going in, I think that's a really great way of just explaining that kind of yearning and that connection that we all want. So let me dive into it. Why don't I give you guys, or give everybody out there, a little bit of information in terms of what I see as a psychic and just sort of some advice generally I can even give for relationships and things out there that might help anybody out there listening. So, as a psychic, obviously the number one thing I always have clients ask me is, see, when am I going to meet him? When am I going to meet my, the perfect man, the perfect woman, the perfect person for me? I want to know exactly what they look like. Give me a name. Give me exactly how it's spelled. I want to know where I have to go to meet them. What street corner do they live on? I want to know the day, the time, the moment I'm going to meet them. I need all the details. And I think that really is, kind of hesitant of putting the cart before the horse, I will say, because if it was that easy, would it be that special? That's what I always like to tell people, right? There's a reason why this information comes about in certain ways and in certain time periods, and it doesn't just get given to us, say, on a piece of paper saying, there he is or there she is. Go find him. Good luck, right? There's a reason why we are left to sort of discover this journey. And that helps the process of bonding when you find that person. I think that's a big thing that we have to realize, because I always say that when you are ready, the right person will show up. I just had a reading with a client maybe last week or the week before, I can't remember, but she said something like, see, I've been reading with you for a while and I'm listening to your podcast, and you always told me when I'm ready, the right person would show up. And that frickin' got me angry. And I always was like, what does she mean? I'm ready. I'm ready. Where are they? I'm ready. And I would always say to her apparently that, well, if you were ready, they would have showed up. So there's more work to do. And she said, you always gave me homework. And I'm kind of just thinking to myself, why can't I do this homework when the right person shows up? I'm just like, why do I have to do this now? Why can't I do this while I'm with the right person? And she ended up meeting the right person, or apparently somebody that I described in a reading for her. And she said that she got it, because she said that when she met that person, everything clicked and fell into place of why she was ready to accept that person into her life. And she was even able to admit that if that person had stepped into her life, say 6 months or 1 year prior, she probably wouldn't be open to meeting them. They're just who they were and who her energy is. It shifted when she started to do that work that raised her vibration to attract the right type of energy for herself. So a lot of people get frustrated with this. And I have so many clients that tell me that and say, well, see, I'm ready. It's not me. It's everyone else out there. Or see, I'm doing everything I can and all I'm meeting is jerks or people trying to use me or narcissist or whatever you want to say. I get this from a lot of different people. And I say, I get that. I'm not saying what you're saying is wrong, but I'm saying there's still messages here and there's still things that you have to learn in order to bring in the right person. So some of the things that I've seen from my clients just doing readings, isn't even really psychic or spiritual woo-woo. I have a lot of that other stuff in my other podcasts, but this is more practical stuff that I can give you in terms of what I've seen doing, gosh, now, like reading for people for over 20 years all around the world, many of them with love and relationship questions, is first off the impatience factor, which I get. I understand. We all look at it and say, my clock's ticking. I have a limited amount of time. One thing I wish everybody would really kind of get to understand, and I know this is so hard. Look, it's so easy for me to say this on the other side of, the microphone, quote unquote, to tell you, hey, just be patient. And I'm sure you get so frustrated hearing that. But the idea that I like to tell clients is, time doesn't exist. That's a construct, or that's something that we sort of put into reality to, I think, busy ourselves, to be honest with you, because, obviously if you look at a lot of literature out there or what's now coming out, there's now a new movement focused on being less busy, being mindful, listening to what the universe says, putting things into action by taking inspired action, not just busy action. Same thing with romantic relationships, everything comes in the right time. So I have a lot of clients that say things like, see, I'm this old, I need to have a baby now, and then my always response is, okay, well, go have a baby. And they'll say, well, no, see, I'm not going to have a baby on my own. I need to meet the partner to have a baby. And I go, okay, so the baby is conditional on the partner. Well, yeah, but you don't understand. I have to do it now. I have to have the baby now. And I go, okay, well, then have the baby, and we get into this funny chicken and egg thing, because what they're really trying to say is it's not necessarily about having the child. They want to have the family. And I'll give you just a recent kind of experience I can share with clients' permission. I was doing a reading for a client, and she was very hung up on the age she was at and the time she wanted to have a baby. And she had very strict regulations in place, and she always had. And I kind of, through doing a little bit of my psychic work with her, the first thing I could pick up is she was very type A personality, and she admitted that. I said, oh wow, you are not 5 minutes late for anything, you are just on the ball with everything. And she goes, absolutely. And I said, and you get very frustrated if people are a little bit late? She goes, terribly frustrated, even 2 minutes late. I will email people or text them, say, hey, I'm 10 minutes out, I'm 5 minutes out, I'm 2 minutes out, I'm right outside the door. And I get so frustrated when people won't do that. And the other thing I kind of noticed from that is I took a part of it that from her experience growing up. And I said, hey, I also see family life and connection not really as extensive as you would like it to be. And we kind of got into that. And basically what she revealed was that her parents both worked a lot, and she was an only child, and no one really sat around the dinner table even when they said they would. So mom and dad would consistently promise her, say, okay, hon, we're going to do, dinner together, and we're going to make dinner, we're going to order, we're going to be at the dinner table at 6:30. And she would get excited to have this family time. And then all of a sudden her aunt would be picking her up saying, oh, I'm so sorry, mom had to work, or dad's here. And she would have, be eating in front of the TV, some sort of microwave dinner. And that kind of got her. So by talking about that, I was able to kind of say, okay, so the timing thing isn't the issue. The baby isn't the issue. We actually want family. That's what I think it is. You want to build this family unit that you maybe didn't have. And it kind of clicked for her. And she said, the funniest thing to me, she goes, huh, interesting. Huh, okay, huh. And she did it about 10 times. I remember that. And I said, does that make sense? And she goes, it does, but it's just kind of blowing my whole world away because I had a really specific way of looking at things, and you just kind of blew that out of the water. And I said, yeah, that's my job. My job is to completely destroy what you think is true or real so you can open yourself up to something better. And, we kind of have been working on doing that with this client, and she's seeing some really great results. So what I want to say with people is normally if there is a pressure that you're putting on yourself for a timeline, whether it's to have a family at a certain time, you got to be married at a certain time, or whatever that is, usually this has to do with something else. That's what I always like to tell clients. It's never about the time. Normally you're putting this pressure on yourself because there's something else that is lurking in the background that you're kind of anxious about, nervous about, or that you actually want to have worked on. That's normally what I see when it comes to this type of thing in romantic relationships. That's the first thing, all right? The next thing that I see with a lot of clients is God love them. And again, I love all my clients so dearly. We are all just doing the best we can with the tools we have. We are all humans learning on this journey. But I see a lot of clients that, make the same mistake over and over and over again. So they'll have a relationship with somebody, it won't work out. And then they either go back to that same ex, or they go to somebody else that's similar to their ex, but they won't let that go. And they'll come back and they'll ask me questions like, well, see, do you see my ex coming back to me? And I'm the no nonsense psychic. I'll be honest. And I'll say, I actually see they're in another relationship right now. And they go, oh yeah, you're 100% right. But are they coming back to me? And I said, why would you focus on that right now? Well, I just don't think they're happy. I don't think they're happy in that relationship. They would be happier with me. Okay, possibly. But if that's what universe wanted right now, universe would have brought them to you. There's obviously a reason why they're not doing this, or they're with somebody else. And your best thing to do would be work on yourself to learn lessons from that romantic connection or that past relationship to see. And in the future, if the timing is right and that person is meant to come back into your energy stream, it will happen. And if not, you're going to get something better. But to be open to it. And a lot of my clients will say, no, I don't think that's the case. It's just, it has to be that person, or it has to be this experience. Why? Why does it have to be? I think we get sometimes so caught up in the rigidness of what we think something should be with romantic relationships. We're not open to allow what could be with romantic relationships. And I see this a lot for clients that also are very picky. Again, I think that's a little bit of a deflector. A lot of my clients who are very picky usually has nothing to do with the person, has everything to do with themselves. And there's something going on there that we kind of got to weed through. One of my clients made a really funny joke. She said, see, you're just so funny. It's almost like you take your hand and you dive into my soul and you pull out all the gunk that isn't working, and then you show it to me and say, this is your problem. I just thought that was such a funny explanation there. But that's another thing that I see from clients. They're going after people that are emotionally unavailable to them. And I always like to use the phrase, universe or God, however you want to say it, God's protection or God's rejection is God's protection. So yes, I don't think you want to cut something off too soon with somebody. There's lessons to be learned. But once those lessons are learned and you're kind of repeating the same patterns over and over again, what's the definition of insanity? Doing the same thing over and expecting different results. So that's where you want to kind of allow yourself to maybe look at this and go, okay, wait a second. What can I be doing different? And I think in terms of doing things differently, sometimes we think we have to do everything at once. Oh, this experience didn't work out with this person. I have to change my hair, my clothes, my online profile. I have to, go online and do this differently. I have to meet people offline. And we sort of try to busy ourselves with busy work instead of sitting still and waiting for, inspired action and taking one positive step forward. That's all you got to do. If you could take one positive step forward every day in regards to your relationships and experiences, you'd get there a lot quicker, right? A lot of people try to focus on the journey of, oh, I got to run, right? But again, it's the tortoise and the hare story, if anyone's familiar with it, right? If you go at a steady pace slowly, but you're consistently making positive gains, you're going to get there. If you're constantly running and then taking 5 steps forward, but 4 steps back, and then 2 steps forward and 3 steps back, it's going to make things a little bit harder, right? We want to make the easiest journey for ourselves. That's what I have to say. So with that, some of the things that I can share in terms of advice as a psychic that I can give you from what I've seen out there that will help ensure that you can find your perfect match, maybe a little bit quicker, would be these things. Number 1, as mentioned, don't focus on the time. Okay? The universe will bring it to you when it is right. If you can sincerely have faith in that and know that when the timing is right, it will happen, and your only job until then is to learn to feel and to take inspired action, it will happen so much more quicker because you will automatically pull that into you. But you need to have the patience to be able to do that. So just sit and do the work. That's the first thing. The second thing, really date yourself. Get really comfortable in loving yourself. I know it's so cliche, but we've all heard the saying that if you can't love yourself, how the heck are you going to love somebody else? But it is so true. The more you love yourself, the more you get to know yourself, the more you really appreciate yourself for who you are, the more you sell yourself, right? The more times you will make sure that you are considered a high value individual and you won't accept anything lesser. Right? If you see yourself as a very high valued individual, when you go out on dates or you go to meet people and they're not necessarily doing the right things that would correlate with you in a romantic experience, or they're emotionally unavailable, or they're playing games, or they're not giving you what you need, but they're saying that they will, that's going to be your cue to be able to say, hey, I love myself and I'm not going to stand for this. And on the other side, it's also going to allow you to be emotionally available yourself and unconditionally loving. So for example, I have a lot of clients that, due to past traumas, which is totally understood, sometimes they're either really picky finding their relationship or romantic match, or they kind of, what I kind of say, I make a joke and say they shut down people really quickly, so they kind of they have a trigger finger is the joke I'll say with them. And I have a lot of clients like this all over the world where they might meet people and within the first little bit, they're automatically like, nope, I don't think this is going to be a fit for me. Didn't even get to know them, or something will happen and they'll say, nope, see, that person reminds me of my ex. Okay, I understand. And maybe that is true, but sometimes maybe you're just dealing with past trauma. And I think if you really kind of, loved yourself, worked on that whole aspect and really got comfortable with that and had patience, you'd be able to recognize the difference between what's a real threat and what's hey, this person's really trying and I could just be unconditionally kind to them and see where it goes. It doesn't always mean it's supposed to be a match. I say all information is good information and everything will lead you to the right person. So even if you have a relationship or a romantic experience that isn't the best and it doesn't bring you to your perfect match at that time, please don't discount it. Look at it as a gift. Be grateful for that gift and know that it's leading you to the perfect match. And the way that I know this is I have clients where, there is a process with how this works, where they might be dating people that aren't really good fits for them, or not having the greatest relationship or dating experiences, right? Or not dating anyone at all. And then they'll end up dating people and they're still not a good fit. Things might be kind of wonky and sort of funny. There still might be some oddness to it, but they learn from the lessons. And then they move up, and then they meet better, quote unquote, quality people. They meet high quality individuals. And maybe those people still don't work out as the perfect partner and the perfect match. But instead, it actually really raises their vibration to say, hey, if I can attract somebody like this, even though that relationship didn't work out for ABC, it's not a loss. It just means that it's the next step to me bringing in my perfect partner. And then they bring in the perfect partner, right? So there's that elevation. So if you can look at it like that, it makes the ride a little bit smoother, right? And the next thing is getting clear. You don't know how many times I do a reading for a client and I'll say, hey, if you could tell me exactly who your perfect partner is, go tell me. And sometimes they don't know, or sometimes they're focused on so many external things that I'll ask them a question and say, how does that perfect partner make you feel? Take aside the list for a second. Let's say you have that list. How does that make you feel? And they'll pause and they'll say, I never got there. See, I just sort of thought about what I wanted, or what I think I wanted. Right? And I always like to ask the question to clients. You can make two different lists. Make a list of everything you want in a perfect partner. You can also include on that list everything you need in a perfect partner. That's good. Then include a secondary list, and make a secondary list where you actually write out what you think you deserve from a partner. And this is where I have a lot of people struggle. This is that whole self-love piece that comes in, and I've literally had it where I've talked with a client and, I'll say to them, I don't think you deserve a proper relationship. And they'll say, what do you mean? I said, I don't think you deserve a man that's actually going to be emotionally available to you, committed to you, and actually wants a long-term relationship with just you. And I've had this with just a few times where clients have laughed and said, well, that's because men aren't available to do that, or that's because all women cheat, or whatever their experience has been. And it's so fascinating listening to it on the other end, because I'll have to say to them, well, maybe that's your experience, but empirically and historically, and looking at evidence-based, information out there, I can't agree with you, because I have a lot of clients in these great relationships, and I know people in these fantastic relationships where things just aligned and, they were able to find their perfect match. Now, they had to do the work, but it happened and it was out there. So I can't say that your blanket statement is a reality I can accept. Right? And that sometimes is a struggle too, to just kind of look at that and say, okay, what are my own self-limiting beliefs kind of stopping me from getting? And this is where it can get really tricky. I have a lot of clients that just think, oh, well, if I knew who my perfect partner was and I knew what they'd look like and I knew when I was going to meet them, everything would be great. And what I kind of have to keep explaining to people is, as a psychic, what we kind of do, or what I feel my role is with everybody is, life is not predetermined. Yes, there are certain circumstances that are predetermined. I will say that. I've had it where I read for people and I've read a certain circumstance, and I had this one client and I read something and I said, why am I seeing this? And she said to me, see, it's so weird that you're saying that. I have been to 2 other psychics. Both have called out that moment, and you all have described the exact moment like it is and the kind of age that happens. And I was like, okay, so that's clearly in your timeline. Now you can change that if you want, but that's in your timeline. And she's like, okay, good to know. But then a lot of the other things are free will. And, if anyone's listened to my other podcasts, I talk about things like quantum leaping and different realities. We are living one in reality right now. Where you are right now is a reality that you are choosing to step into right now, right? But that reality can be changed. So if I or somebody else reads for you and we read for somebody, and I've had this where I've read for a client where I've seen somebody and I said, I don't know if this is your perfect match, your perfect partner, your soulmate, but this is the person I'm seeing. And they will say to me, see, it's really weird. I met that person, but because I had done so much self-work from our readings and what we've talked about, I met them and they weren't a romantic fit, but they're cool. I'm friends with them, but it was really fascinating because I met them and realized, oh, this is who C was talking about. But I think I've changed my reality, because before I would want to date somebody like that, and now I kind of want to move forward and date someone a little different. So we get the opportunity to change these realities too. And that's why I don't like focusing on, details that don't really matter in the long term of things. What really matters is what you want to feel in the relationship, because reading for clients all around the world, once again, talking about what unites us as a civilization and as humanity, all of us want to be with a partner that just wakes up every day, looks at us, and thinks and knows they are the luckiest person alive to have us in their lives, right? As a perfect partner. Everyone wants somebody that's going to, be loyal to them and trustworthy and be by their side and do everything that they can to be the healthiest partner they can for that person, and vice versa, right? We all want to have somebody that's going to have our back and who's going to, be there with us and talk about things and be open to terms of communication. We want somebody there that's going to be fun and, match our humor or our vibe, match what we want to kind of do in this life, has those same morals, has those same core values, and finally, everyone keeps saying this. See, I just want to find my soulmate. I want to find that person that when we're together, I just feel like they're my person and they were created just for me. And I'll tell you that's out there. I will tell you right now, that is out there. I know it. I've seen it. It's out there. So you can have all these things. The question is, do you think you can have all these things? And are you willing to do the work? And are you willing to be patient to learn what needs to be learned to get there? I kind of sort of equate this with going to school. We don't just go into school and say, all right, when am I going to go to university? Give me the time, the year. When am I going to university? I mean, you obviously know what time you're going to go to university. You can map that back from when you start school. But you might not know what university you're going to go to. You might not know what you want to study in university. Chances are, when you're kind of starting out your school career, say in kindergarten, you're not going to know any of those things, right? You're going to be developing it along the way, and you're patient to develop it. You understand that if you are 5, or at least your parents understand that if you are 5 and you're in school, or 6 or 7 and you're just starting grade school, whatever it is, you might not have all those answers, and you're going to learn along the way. And that more than likely you're going to graduate high school, say 17 or 18, and afterwards of that you're going to potentially start a college or university career or do something else, travel or whatever that is. We sort of have a timeline for our sort of early school experiences and school curriculum and school education and our school history, I would say. And we don't question that. I don't see very many 7-year-olds walking around being like, why am I not going to university next year? Where's my university? Why can't they accept me? Right? They understand, or there is an understanding with that. I wish that can be applied to romantic relationships. And I wish everyone saw that and applied that to finding their perfect match and finding their perfect partner. Just understanding that's going to show up for me when the time is right. And I'm just going to do my work in the meantime, focus on myself, focus on the things that I can control, take a positive step forward, and be patient and be grateful for what I do have, right? Because at the end of the day, you have to be grateful. You have to be grateful for the things you do have, because if you're not grateful for those things, it's going to be very hard for the universe to bring anything else to you, right? So you got to be grateful. All right. Well, I do hope this has been helpful and healing for everyone out there. Thank you so much for listening to this podcast. I hope it's given you some things to think about. And if you have any ideas for any other podcasts, or you want to make any comments or say anything that you liked about this or anything that you'd want to see more of, please shoot me an email. Again, I am just so blown away always when I get emails. Normally what happens is a client will book a reading and I'll say, oh, how'd you find me if I haven't read for them before? And they'll say, oh, I found you through your podcast. I kind of started going down the rabbit hole, found one, and just started listening and said, hey, maybe I should do a reading, So I'm just so amazed with people finding this podcast and saying that it's been helpful and healing for them, or it's given them something, or they found it in their darkest moments or when they needed it. So I'm just glad spirit messages are getting out there. All right. Well, thank you so much for listening to this. I hope everybody is taking care of themselves and each other. Blessings.